I'm here with you, Dan Tortora, and we have Dr. Marc Pietropaoli here with us, and Dr. P. So it's
good.
Having him here with us at Victory, and for Victory, sports medicine and orthopedics, this has been such an incredible place for my story personally, and I'm happy that we finally get to do it and talk about it a little bit.
As am I.
So for you, I know we're going to talk about kind of how we met and whatnot, but just to kind of let people know as this introductory On the Clock with Doc that we're doing here through the Dan Tortora broadcast media family, what made you so passionate to be in this world?
Well, I think I had some really good mentors. I mean, obviously you got to thank your parents always. My parents and my grandparents were from Italy, came over from Italy, worked hard workers, immigrants, and they instilled that in my parents. And so they were hard workers, and so I got to give a lot of credit to my parents for sure. But I always had an interest in biology. I like to fish. I like to cut things open. So I always kind of had an interest in biology, and so that translated into surgery. And then I always liked sports. I always liked playing sports, watching sports growing up, and so I had this idea I might want to do sports medicine pretty early on, actually very early on. And my father was an attorney, but his brother, my uncle, the original Dr. Pietropaoli, was an internist, and he was a mentor of mine as well. And I told him I wanted to go into sports medicine, and he said, well, that's really hard because most sports medicine doctors are orthopedic surgeons. It's hard residency and fellowship to get into, but I just took that as a challenge, and so at a pretty young age, I knew I wanted to be, well, there was three things I wanted to be, and this equipment reminds me of one of them. So I either wanted to be a rock star and a drummer, like Keith Moon for The Who, so that was my favorite drummer, and I either wanted to do that, I wanted to be a fighter pilot, or I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, and that's the serious truth. So I don't think my parents would have been appreciative if I went into being a rock star, although I think if I put the amount of time that I put into being a physician and an orthopedic surgeon into drums, who knows? I get to play once a year at our holiday party, so it's fun. But and then fighter pilot, my eyes were not good enough for that, so it turns out I had to settle for the least of the three, the orthopedic surgeon, and that's kind of what brought my interest to it.
So you and I met because I got injured, and I got injured when I was actually out of town. And the Disney company, Walt Disney World and the Walt Disney Company brought me here. They made this decision for me to come to Victory, and they were the bridge of how you and I met in the first place, which was pretty, amazing that, when they did their research, that this is the company they found.
Yeah, I mean, I was honored to hear that. When you told me that, I was just honored to hear that. What else can you say on that? But I was also honored to have you become my patient. So it was a good thing. It's been a good relationship, like you said. And I'm glad we're together talking on your terms this time.
Yeah. And I mean, and the reason why it's we're sitting here today with the opportunity to speak on my terms and have such a positive feel to it is a testament to your work. It's a testament to the fact that when I came in here with, my injury, I did not want to have surgery. I wanted to do everything in my power that I could do to get better. And I think it's such an amazing thing that we're going to dive into with On the Clock with Doc as we continue, this series and working together, because I think doctors get an unfair rap that they want to push the medicine, they want to push the surgery, where you push someone not only taking care of themselves and training their body to get better, but you also are in preventative care as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, so as you said, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, sports medicine fellowship trained. I was lucky enough to train with Dr. Andrews, who's the best sports medicine doctor in the whole world. And I was very lucky to do that. And so I learned, and I also did my residency in Syracuse. I actually went to college, medical school, and did my residency in Syracuse, so I bleed orange as you can see.
Yeah.
But in any event, I had a very good operative experience at Upstate, SUNY Upstate, and then with Dr. Andrews. But what I really learned with Dr. Andrews was how to take care of a patient. I learned how to work as a team. So we had athletic trainers, we had physical therapists, we had nurses, we had assistants, we had coaches, we had personal trainers, we had parents. Everybody was involved in taking care of that patient. And Dr. Yoakum, who used to take care of the Dodgers, he's passed away, rest his soul, but he was the team doctor for the Dodgers. And I remember a conference we were at, and he said, you know, Jimmy Andrews, Dr. Andrews, you know, he actually taught us more on who not to operate on than who to operate on. And Dr. Andrews would do 20 surgeries a day. We would be very busy. He could operate on everybody if he wanted to, but he really taught us how to get patients better without doing surgery. And so I've taken that same philosophy. And yes, I'm a surgeon. I love doing surgery. It's one of my favorite things I like doing. But I've also had 4 surgeries, and who wants to have surgery if you don't have to have surgery? So I look at it, and we look at it here, is there's a lot of things we can do to get people better without surgery, and if we can get you better without surgery, that's the least risky thing, and most people appreciate that.
Well, I think the thing too is that, you know, how we were brought together was, you know, through that decision of Disney to say, you know, this is where you're going to go. But I think the biggest compliment that I can give back to you is the decision was made for me initially, but now all these years later, I would make the decision again.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, and again, it's a testament to the fact that as much as you love surgery and, you know, you pride yourself on what you do and what you're capable of, you have the gamut. Like you open up the playbook. As much as you love sports, you have the playbook. Okay, we could do surgery. Okay, we could do shots. We could do this. We could do physical therapy. There's so many different things that you look at, and the one thing that I think every patient looks at when they're trying to find the right doctor is someone who treats them as an individual and not as a statistic or as just like a cookie cutter thing. And that's where I think you excel the most, that you open up your playbook, and for some of us, you're going to, you know, run a pitch. Some of us, you're going to go, you know, the fade. Some of us, you know, are going to have that, you know, slant over the middle. And that's the beauty of what you do, is sometimes you run the ball, sometimes you pass, sometimes you fake punt. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I think we're very lucky that we have a big playbook, which we do. And I agree with you on that. And just like any sport, we have a great team here, as you know. I mean, it's obviously, you know, I'm the owner and maybe I'm the leader, but I can't do it without everybody else. And the cool thing is you've met the vast majority of my team, and as you know, they're just amazing. And so without a good team, it doesn't matter what playbook you have. So we do have a big playbook. There's a lot of things we can do that don't require surgery, but there's also a lot of cutting-edge advanced surgical techniques that we use, minimally invasive, that have really changed over the last even 10 years, especially over the last 20 years, because I've been in practice 22 years. So it's really changed a lot. But you can't do it without a great team, and obviously I have a great team, so that makes you be able to execute the playbook a little bit better. And one cool thing about this On the Clock with Doc series, and I'm excited, Dan's been asking me to do this for a while, but I'm very excited to do it because I think we're going to be able to delve into each one of those things as a topic for a show in and of itself, and I think we'll be able to educate the public on a lot of really interesting things, and a lot of, like you said, preventive things. I mean, honestly, I think the only true way to cut the cost of healthcare is to prevent a lot of the stuff that we see. Most of what I see is preventable.
Yeah.
I'm an orthopedic surgeon. Most of the injuries I see are preventable. We'll get into that. But that's really, you know, cancer is preventable, diabetes is preventable, heart disease is preventable, a lot of orthopedics injuries are preventable. And if we can cut the cost, you know, cut the cost of healthcare by preventing things rather than treating them after the fact, I think that's going to be the way to save money in healthcare in the long run. And so if we can preach one thing, I'd love to preach that.
Well, you know, and that's the thing, is that you're constantly learning different ways to, I mean, you could just say, you know what, I'm an orthopedic surgeon and that's what I'm going to do, but you go to all these different areas to provide that playbook and to really challenge yourself, because who are we if we don't grow and we don't consistently learn? You know, I mean, a tree, it's great if it grows up and it bears fruit for one season, but, you know, when you go to that apple tree every year, you want it to bear fruit. So I think the beauty of what you do and what your team does is that there is a central message, they listen, and I think what I've always felt when I've come here is that there's suggestions made to me, but then I get to make the decision with your team of, here is what I think you should do. Are you comfortable with this? Would you rather do this? Would you like some literature on this? Tell me what you think and get back to me, as opposed to I'm going to tell you what you have to do. And that's what I grew up with. I mean, I grew up with doctors that spoke, you know, this language you don't understand. They told you what you needed and almost scared you into thinking, I have to do this, as opposed to you walk in and we built a relationship where there's a friendship now, but you walk in and you talk to me about how am I feeling, what's going on, things that matter to me, you remember things, and then we work out together. Hey Dan, remember this is what I said we could do. Would you like to do this? Is this working? And I think it's very hard to find a doctor and a team that listens to their patients, because normally we feel like we're being talked at as opposed to being talked with.
No, I agree with that. I think there are some patients who definitely, they just want you to tell them what to do. But by far, and this is even this has changed even over the 22 years I've been in practice, but by far, people really, they want to be involved in their healthcare. They want to make their own decisions. Most people appreciate, you tell them, give them all their options, and then let them make the decision. They will oftentimes ask, hey, what would you do yourself? That's probably one of the more common questions I get, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them. And a lot of times I've already had some of the stuff done that they've had done. But I think you're right. I think by far nowadays, with all the information that's out there, people can get any type of information they want to look for on the internet. They're a lot more educated, they come with a lot more questions, and they appreciate you going through all the options and then letting them make the decision. Again, there are some people, they just want, I don't care, doc, you just tell me what I got to do, that's fine. You read each person differently, but like you said, most people are more of that mindset. They want to make the decision. That's the way it should be. So,
personally, to tell a little bit of my story, just what you can say about your experience with me over the year, over the years that we've had, here as we're doing our initial On the Clock with Doc, with myself, Dan Satora, and Dr. Marc Pietropaoli, Dr. P here. What can you say about the experience from your angle of what you've seen with my injury and how things have developed? And actually, I think one thing that we can note is the fact that decisions I've made on healthy mind, healthy body has actually affected the way I've looked to you when I've come back for checkups.
Absolutely. So, do you want me to? So, in other words, I have your permission to give a little bit of your medical
history? Yeah, you can
history?
talk a little bit about my history.
Well, why don't you tell them what the original injury, like what it actually happened, and then your initial treatment down there when you were in Florida, and then we can talk about what we've been doing here.
Yeah, so I had a very unique injury. I was working in a restaurant, and I was responsible for assigning the restaurant, which essentially meant that I was responsible for getting every guest in and every guest out. We would be triple booked, double booked on a slower day, and I had to get like 3,000 people in 1,000 seats like every hour. So I was walking, and we're in a very dimly lit place. It's supposed to be a night setting, even in the daytime, and someone had left a tray out on the ground, a black tray on the black ground in the dark. I stepped on it, and I slid out, and I locked up my knee. I did not fall, I caught myself, and I, kind of just was like, oh, that was weird. And then I went about my job, and like 6 hours later, I was kind of just leaning and, just doing my work, whatever. And then I got up and I turned, and there's just a simple movement of my body, and I felt like I was going to go down. So I had to bring myself away from all the guests that we had at the restaurant. I fell down on the ground and just felt pain, and a pain that I can only describe as if someone like your patellar tendon, which I learned, which is in the front here, but my kneecap felt like somebody like picked it up and was pulling it, and that turned into going to different doctors down there. I had a doctor tell me I should be fine, and I said, well, that's great. Should is a very interesting word. He said, according to this textbook, unless you're 80 years old, you should be cured by now. It's been 3 months. It's done. And I remember having to argue with this man that I needed crutches. I said, you're going to send me back to do a job, and I'm not going to be able to do it. And it was a horrible experience. And then I went to physical therapy, and they didn't really listen to me. It was kind of like cookie cutter, do this, this, and this. And then another place I said, wow, this is working. And I told them what the other people did. And you and I talked about this. They're like, oh yeah, they shouldn't have done any of that. And then they changed my entire regimen. So every time I went to another path of hopefully getting better, I was restarting. So it was like a restart to a restart. This PT didn't agree with this one, this doctor didn't agree with that, or this person. And I just felt like I was constantly jogging forward and then being thrown backward. And then I came home and I came here and I was just praying to God that there was going to be someone that genuinely cared about me and didn't like put me in a direction for 3 to 4 months that I would have to negate the next 3 to 4. And that's when I met you. So.
Yeah, and so I think you'd also been told that you needed surgery. So I think the first thing we ruled out was that, like you said, you had an injury to the front part of your knee, the patellar tendon. There's a bursa there in the front of the knee, and then there's your kneecap, and you kind of bruised that whole area. The good news is most of the time that doesn't need surgery. And the bad news is it can take a long time to heal compared to other parts of the knee because you put a lot of stress on the front part of the knee when you're kneeling, when you're walking up and down stairs, just normal daily activities. But we were able to get you into good therapy here. We were able to empower you to do the exercises on your own. We held off on any surgery. I think we checked a couple more MRIs and there was no more, significant increased damage. We debated whether or not to try some types of injections and things like that. But little by little, I think what you alluded to was you started to get on a healthier lifestyle plan and eat better. You lost a bunch of weight. You started doing this step. I remember you did the steps up to 1 million steps or 2 million. How many steps did you get up to? You did it.
I am. So my thing was do 10,000 steps a day, and in 40 days I wanted to hit 500,000, and I was at 600,000, and then at 80 days I wanted 1 million. I was over, and then I, very easily, lost track at a point of 2 million plus and whatever it is now. But essentially, I've done the equivalent of walking to Toronto and walking back home, and then probably going back at this point. But it was just, there was a lot of things in my life that led me to healthy mind, healthy body is something I keep thinking about, but there's no way around it without doing the work.
And you lost a lot of weight, and that takes a lot of pressure off that knee. And it was just simple stuff, but you got to do it, and you just got to stick to it. And I think we were as encouraging as we possibly could. You took the ball, you ran with it, and you got yourself better, really. And so it didn't require surgery, it didn't require fancy shots, it didn't require laser, it didn't require some of these other things that we do. Maybe down the road it will at some point, but at this point, if we can get you better without it, great. And if we can teach you what to do to keep yourself better, even better.
I think one of the greatest feelings that any patient can attest to or will attest to down the road is when I came in a year ago and I was doing this healthy mind, healthy body stuff. And when I came in such a while back, a little less than a year ago, and you said to me, "Did you lose weight?" And I was like, "Yeah." And you're like, "You lost like a good amount." And then you showed me and you said, "Your knee looks like the best it's ever been." And you said, "You look the best you've ever been." And then a month or so ago, I came back and you said, "Your knee looks the best it's ever been, and you look the best you've ever been." And I said, as long as that's trending in that direction. And I've seen so many, because of this injury, I've seen so many x-rays that when you showed it to me, I actually looked at it and physically was like, oh my God, I don't think I've ever seen my knee that good. And so it's a true testament that when you're surrounded by the right team and you take personal responsibility, the coupling together of you caring about your health and your wellness and then working with people that equally care about your health and wellness, it can be very game-changing and life-changing. And if and when you need the other assistance, you want to be with people that have listened to you, know your story, and know that your health is actually, in a way, kind of the healthier I get, it almost I see a relief on your end when you see me better, which is something that is a genuine reaction that you can't teach and you can't simulate.
Yeah, it's rewarding too. It's like, for a golf analogy, you may have several patients during the day who aren't doing so well, and then you may not be playing golf that well. You make a long putt on the 18th hole, and it's very rewarding and satisfying. And that's how medicine is. Luckily, with orthopedics, in sports medicine, we have motivated people who want to get better most of the time, people. Whereas other branches of medicine, that's not able to be done. Not that I'm disparaging any other branches of medicine. I think I really respect those doctors. I feel as though I'm lucky that I'm able to get people better, and that's another reason I wanted to go into orthopedic surgery and sports medicine, is because you can get people better, and it's so satisfying, and that's why I really love it.
And we're going to be able to hear some pretty incredible stories that's outside of just mine in the work that you've done here in the community and what that's meant. So with that being said, on the clock with Doc, here with Dan Tortora and Dr. Marc Pietropaoli, Dr. P, here with us at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics out in Skaneateles, New York. I know that this is our first show, but if people knew the road that it took to get to this first show and to feel the way that I feel today, they would know that as much as this is a first, it's actually years in the making. So I want to thank you for sitting with me and giving me the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. And incidentally, we're both vaccinated, so get vaccinated.
Yes.
It's really important, and the vaccines are very safe. And we know, do we know everything about the vaccines? No, we don't at this point, but we know a lot about COVID. We don't even know everything about that either, but we know your chances of getting sick or having problems are a lot higher with COVID than they are getting the vaccine. So we both strongly recommend getting the vaccine. Whatever you can get, take it.
Make sure you take care of yourselves, and when you need the help, know who to call and know to get in touch with Victory out here, because they are different, and there's something about peace of mind that no place can give you unless they give it to you. There's no simulation of that. So with that being said, on the clock with Doc, we look forward to seeing you again very soon. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves and stay well.
For what?